All right, good morning again, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our Coffee with the Chamber today. I know we have a few people that are just jumping on, so we'll let them come in to the program. But we're very excited for today's presentation. But before we get to that, just a few housekeeping reminders. Please keep yourself muted unless you're talking. That way we aren't disturbing the presentation. If you do have questions along the way on the presentation, feel free to ask them in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask those. We'll have that as well. We're very excited about our speakers for today, talking about bridging the digital divide. Our first speaker is Jason Grinenberg, who is the Planning and Zoning Director for Wood County. And then we also have Marianne Lippert, who is a consultant who helped with quite a few initiatives currently and in the process for Wood County as well regarding broadband. So Jason, I will let you take it over and welcome.
Great, thank you. Just want to thank the Chamber for allowing us to speak today about broadband initiatives in the county. Right now, there's a lot going on. As most of you are aware, during the pandemic, we realized the need to have broadband pretty much to every home in the county. I think prior to the pandemic, broadband was viewed a little bit differently. It was viewed more as something, a nice thing to have, but now we're kind of seeing with working from home and schooling from home and telemedicine, things like that. It's something that we really need to have in every household in the county here and in the state and beyond. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to try to share a presentation here. We're going to go through. It's a real informal presentation, and so if you have questions along the way, feel free to participate. And I'm going to have Marianne help me out with the presentation here as well. She's been very active in Wood County on a consultant basis, and also as a concerned citizen that lives in rural Wood County. Okay, so we're going to share the screen here.
Jason, your microphone got muted.
Is it muted now? Can you hear me, Angel?
We can hear you now, Jason.
Okay, it wasn't
but
muted.
We can't see the screen anymore.
Okay, I'll put the screen back up. If for some reason it goes to mute, let me know. Sorry about that. One second here. Okay, here we go.
And now you muted again, Jason. Darn technology.
Okay, so bear with me. It mutes when I share the screen, apparently. So I'm going to try one more time here.
Jason, why don't you go ahead and email me your presentation quick, and I can do your presentation for you.
If you could, I'd appreciate that. Believe it or not, this hasn't happened before. Well, I'll send it over, Angel.
Great. We did test this morning, everyone, so that as well.
Yeah.
almost there. You got it, Angel?
I just hit refresh. So.
Okay. There we go. Everybody all set? Can you hear me? Okay, real good, real good. Yeah, Angel, if I get the next slide, please. So first off, like I mentioned earlier, I think with the pandemic, broadband's pretty much been an issue for everybody. I mean, what's really kind of unusual about broadband is a lot of things I work with at the county here only affect a few people, or certain demographics, things like that. But it seems like broadband's pretty much affected every single household in the county and beyond. And that's one of the reasons why it's a real big issue for the county right now, and why the county is involved with helping broadband infrastructure investments along. Has it affected anybody's families out there? I would imagine, as far as schooling, working from home, the need for telemedicine and things like that. I know during the pandemic, a lot of people couldn't go to the clinic or hospital. They had to do telemedicine as far as safety goes and things like that. Your employer, how's your employer doing with broadband? I know we have a few employers in the county right now that are encouraging working from home. We have a lot of residents in the county that aren't really able to do that, given where they live in the county and limited access to broadband. Also, I think right now we're kind of turning the corner on the pandemic. It seems. I guess it remains to be seen yet, but we're seeing a lot of the long-term impacts of broadband on the workplace, on households, and things like that. One example is I have a neighbor. She works for Delta Dental. Delta Dental built a beautiful new building in Stevens Point, and I don't think she's been in there yet. She's pretty much working from home since the Safer at Home was issued a couple years ago. Next slide, please. So just to kind of summarize generally what broadband access looks like in Wood County, most of you are probably from the Wisconsin Rapids area and probably have pretty good access to broadband. We have a few providers here. We have Solaris, which provides outstanding service, as well as Charter Spectrum. And we do have some other technologies out there that people have access to. I know some people get their broadband through a cell provider as well as through a satellite. The Marshfield area is also pretty well covered in the city. Once you get beyond the city boundaries, though, it seems your options diminish and the quality is questionable. But generally, the areas that fall between Wisconsin Rapids and Marshfield lack real solid, consistent service. There's a variety of providers. I think they're doing good work out there. We have a TDS, Frontier, Astria, among probably another half dozen others that I'm unaware of that are providing service out there. But really, what we're hearing from people in the rural areas of the county is that they need more reliable access and more options out there. Mm-hmm. In some cases, they need the options because pricing in certain cases is not realistic for them.
Yeah, if I could just jump in real quick. I live halfway between Marshfield and Wisconsin Rapids. Our options are DSL through a phone provider, and then also wireless internet. In this case, where I am today, the wireless internet does not meet the definition of a broadband. And I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah.
Many of you know, just because you have access to the internet does not mean you have broadband speeds, which are federally defined as 25 download, 3 upload. And there's a lot of sense that that definition is going to be changed to 100 download and 20 upload. So we have ways to go here in rural Wood County.
And Marianne's breaking up a little bit because she's in Pittsville area right now. So I guess a good example of some of the service out there. But that's a very good point. You know, much of Wood County in the rural areas is classified as unserved, having no access to broadband, or underserved, having very limited or low quality access to broadband. And really that classification right now makes Wood County rural areas eligible for some of the grant funding out there that we're working with ISPs on securing. Next slide, please. This, I probably don't have to get too deep into this slide. You know, this talks a little bit about why broadband is important. And where I think before was an amenity, now it's a pretty much necessity, like having electric to your home and things like that. But some of the things we use it for, we need it for, is telehealth, working from home, home occupations. Agriculture is huge in Wood County as far as our economy goes. And a lot of those rural areas don't really have adequate access to broadband for things like precision agriculture and just getting things to their business and marketing things. Virtual learning is a real big need right now. It's a quality of life thing for entertainment. One thing we're seeing right now too, I think the number is 3%. So if you have a home that has good broadband, you're likely to sell your home for 3% more than if you didn't have broadband. So there's a price on having access to broadband.
Yeah.
We're also
We've also had anecdotal evidence from realtors that when someone from out of the area is to buy, that unless there is access to broadband, buyers don't even want to look at the properties. Right.
Yeah, it's right now it's probably one of the biggest determining factors in the sale of a home. And again, broadband right now is viewed as a necessity rather than a luxury as in the past. Next slide, please. So here's my disclaimer. I'm not going to act like I know everything about broadband. This is one of many hats I wear for the county. I've been involved with broadband because I work with economic development issues in the county here. And Wood County government sees broadband as something, as a necessity for the future of the county, the future growth of the county, the future economy of the county, and things like that. So some of my disclaimers are here that there are many players in telecommunications out there right now. I've done some name dropping here, but I really don't know all the different players out there, and we haven't really talked with all of them yet. We hope to in the future. A lot of, I might share some of the conversations I've had with ISPs and people in telecommunications, but a lot of what they know is kept confidential. So I think generally I hear pieces of what they're doing, and that's fine. I mean, it's competitive out there. They have business models that they're trying to implement. So what I'm sharing with you is probably part of the information out there. It's a very competitive landscape. There's a lot of providers that are competing for footholds in certain parts of the county and state as far as gaining customers. Two, there's many technologies out there that you're aware of. We have satellite, your HughesNet, things like that. Fiber. There's fixed wireless, which is broadband that's based off of towers. There's coax cable and a variety of other options out there. Then one thing we're going to talk about too a little bit along the way here is different funding options. There's many funding options out there right now from different levels of the state and federal government, but a lot of the requirements for those applications look very different, and the eligibility is very different. Next slide, please. So, I'm talk a little bit about Wood County's broadband involvement. First off, we're not in telecommunications or providing broadband service, but again, we realize the value of having that in the county here, and we feel an obligation to help expanding infrastructure along. So in fall 2020, we formed a group at the county here, and it was really just we call it a task force. And what we were looking to do is take advantage of some of the grant funding opportunities out there. And two, there was a lot of urgency at that time. This is like in the middle of the pandemic. Families were literally forced to stay at home, work from home, to attend school from home and things like that. So we felt the need to really mobilize and try to make things happen in the county here. At that time, next slide, please. Okay, at that time, there was a state public service commission grant out there, and I believe the value of that was about 25 million. And we wanted to try and secure some of that funding for the county. And we were in a very tight timeline. We kind of fell into a conversation with Bug Tussle Wireless, also known as Hilbert Communications. And we worked with them on 2 different grant applications for the county. Next slide, please. And so a little bit about Bug Tussle Wireless. I think you've probably heard of them by now. They do have a presence in Wood County already, and they're doing some marketing and making people aware of the service they provide. But they're kind of a niche. Well, at that time they were a niche broadband provider. They're looking at providing broadband in rural areas with low population density, low housing density, areas that other providers like maybe Solaris or Charter Spectrum really weren't targeting at that point in time. So we worked with them, and we put 2 grant applications together. Next slide, please. And one grant application was called the Rural Wood County application. The other was the Pittsville area Southwest Wood County application. And these 2 applications, Marianne Lippert was very involved with. She was kind of our boots on the ground person, or the point person for Wood County, working with Bug Tussle to help build a stronger grant here. Marianne worked directly with a lot of the townships out there, the school districts, and got letters of support. And the result was that these grant applications scored very high, and we did get grant funding for those. Next slide, please. So if you look down the second from the last line, that kind of details what the breakdown of that project was. There was $1 million from the Public Service Commission, $1 million from Wood County in bonding that we actually get a return on that. We get 40 basis points return when we lend that money to Hilbert Communications or Bug Tussle. And Hilbert Communications was in the project for $3 million. Next slide. So, and what this project did, I think I covered this one here. Next slide, please. What this project really did is it helped establish a fixed base wireless broadband network in the county, administered by Hilbert Communications. They put I think 14 towers up and put antennas on 4 existing towers. And from those towers, they provided fixed base, or will provide fixed base broadband to rural residents. Now, at that time, when we pursued that project, there really wasn't any federal funding out there. A lot of the funding pools hadn't come together yet. So fixed base wireless seemed like a good option to go with, even though fixed base wireless is not as good as fiber in the ground. It's really kind of more of a stepping stone to fiber in a lot of rural parts of Wood County here. But with that being said, we're seeing residents that have access to broadband that didn't have access to broadband before. And there's one thing I will say about Bug Tussle Wireless. They have tiered offerings, so different pricing, different price points for the residents in Wood County as well. Next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about the first 2 grant applications. We did apply for a 3rd grant application, and this was done in 2021. And there was about $100 million of federal funding that went to the state that was available. And we weren't successful in that grant round. We had Marianne work with Bug Tussle, submit an application. Requirements for this grant funding cycle was a little bit different than the prior 2. And our project really wasn't as good of a fit at that point in time. So we weren't successful. We we're almost successful. I think we were out of the 100, was there 100 projects selected, and we were 105 or 106, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we scored amazingly well considering the criteria.
Yeah. And again, one thing I'll mention too is a lot of these grant applications, I kind of feel like we're part of the feeding frenzy out there. We're notified of the grants. We kind of scramble to put things together or put a grant application together and see if it works out. Hopefully in the future, we won't be operating like that. We'll be more calculated. We'll have a plan in the county here to kind of follow. But what the third grant application looked to do was link those towers that Bug Tussle had in Wood County, link those towers with fiber. And what that's called is a mid-mile fiber. And the thought with that is, off that mid-mile fiber, you could eventually do fiber to the home in a future phase of the project. So next slide, please. So that brings us to the fourth and fifth grant applications that were submitted. One was in cooperation with Bug Tussle. Another one was in cooperation with Charter Spectrum. And these two grant applications were the result of a RFI process, a request for information process, that we had earlier in the year. I believe it was in January. We talked with 4 different ISPs in the county here about their future projects, and determined if we could help any of those projects along. One thing I want to say too is I talked a lot about Bug Tussle and mentioned Charter now, but our hope is to work with all the ISPs in the county here to help them secure resources for future infrastructure investments in the county. I guess the reason we haven't been able to work with all of them yet is pretty much timing and fit of projects that they're looking to do. And one thing too I want to mention, county funding. A lot of the projects that we're looking at partnering on require some level of county funding. We haven't been to the point yet of securing cash beyond bonding for some of these projects. My hope is in the next few months to be able to secure some of the American Rescue Plan funds or ARPA funds at the county level for some of these projects. Help provide some kind of match or leverage for those projects. And if you're not aware, Wood County is receiving $14 million in ARPA funds. Then cumulatively in the county with municipalities, your towns, villages, and cities, I think we have about 22 million that we're receiving in the county here. So it's a pretty significant dollar value that we have that we can apply towards broadband projects in the future. But one thing I will mention, there's going to be a lot of competition for allocation of those ARPA funds. And really, right now, if you ask the county what they're using ARPA funds for, the response you'll get is that they don't know. And there's a committee put together that's going to allocate those funds, but they really haven't decided how those funds will be used. So we did, back to the application. So we put one application together, or assist with the application with Bug Tussle. And this again was for that mid-mile fiber that was unsuccessful in the third grant application. And this project, one addition to this project is it would actually provide fiber to homes and some businesses in the county along that mid-mile loop that connects the towers. So our hope was to provide fiber access to 2,254 homes, and I believe it was 125 or so businesses. And some of those homes and businesses did have a limited access to broadband already through other providers, but maybe the quality wasn't great, things like that. So in some cases, this is providing broadband people that don't have access. In other cases, it was providing an option to homeowners and businesses that maybe have an provision for broadband out there. Right now, we're looking to probably hear results back by mid-June if those grant applications were successful. And now to the charter one. The charter application was for providing fiber in the Saratoga area and also an area in the northwest part of Wood County. Originally, they came to us with a broader implementation of broadband or fiber in the county, but in the end settled for focusing on Saratoga and northwest county. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're not, I guess at the county, we're not really done with trying to help broadband along because we still have a great need out there. We're going to look at some maps here in a little bit. But again, a lot of rural Wood County has limited options and limited access to broadband, and we're probably not going to stop helping things along until we see fiber to most, if not all, homes in the county. So we will be applying for future Public Service Commission grants if and when they're available. There's going to be $43 billion in federal funding that's going to be sent to the states, and I believe Marianne mentioned earlier that amount is about $100 million that Wisconsin will be eligible for. We're not sure what that grant application will look like or how that will be structured, but we'll be submitting applications. Again, to the ARPA funds, I'll be looking to secure some level or some amount of county ARPA funds to apply towards future projects. Not sure what that amount looks like yet, but I've made numerous requests to the county board. We're going to continue to work with the telecommunication providers in the county. They're really key to making things happen. I know I'm talking a lot about what the county is doing right now, but really it all comes down to Solaris, Charter, Frontier, Astria, other ISP providers out there. It really comes down to them submitting strong applications to get the infrastructure in place in Wood County. Wood County can't apply for grants on our own. We can partner on grant applications with ISPs, but we really can't do much beyond that. But our role really right now is to make those grant applications stronger and try to provide some amount of leveraging funds for those projects. We're also going to see some small investments in RDOF, what's the World Digital Opportunity Fund areas. And I believe that was Obama era broadband funding that was targeted to areas of statewide and or nationwide that needed broadband or fiber investments. We have some areas, I believe it's east and west of Marshfield, that I will see some investments in fiber off those funds. Next slide, please. One thing we want to do too is we want to develop some kind of county broadband plan or strategy, and that's not going to be an easy thing to put together. It's kind of like trying to hit a moving target right now. I mean, as we're speaking, there's investments being made in the county by our ISPs, but we want to have a more calculated approach to a broadband investment. Right now, I think I classify it as basically a feeding frenzy. We see a grant opportunity come up, we talk to a few ISPs and try to put a grant application together that's successful. Also, I think down the road, our approach to getting fiber to the home is going to be more surgical. As projects are implemented, there's less of a need out there, but we're still finding that there's going to be gaps out there in the county. We want to make sure all those gaps are covered. Another thing that the county is looking at doing is developing a community area network or a broadband network for government use in the county potentially. That's a pretty heavy lift and something that will probably, I don't know if it'll be done in my career here, but something that we'd like to see down the road. And that would link, your county facilities, maybe your town halls, village halls, libraries, fire departments, and things like that down the road. So they have access to broadband at a low cost. But really, there's a great upfront cost to that. Right now, I believe the number, and anybody can correct me if they like, to install fiber is about $110,000 per mile buried and $55,000 per mile if you hang fiber. And then too, I didn't really mention this earlier, but we have what's called a digital equity solutions team, and we meet on every couple months and try to make recommendations on broadband implementation in the county. And that group is made up of a variety of people. We have some government employees on there, some private business people on there, some school district people, interested or concerned citizens, things like that. Right now we're focused on broadband, but that focus probably will shift once broadband issues are met. We'll probably shift to things like making sure people have devices that they can use if they have broadband access, that type of thing. Because what we're seeing is there's federal programs out there that might provide broadband for free to families, but a lot of times families don't have a device to hook up to the broadband to use for telehealth or virtual schooling, things along those lines. Next slide. The other big one that's really timely to talk about is broadband speed testing. I'm sure all of you have heard about broadband speed testing, if not in Wood County, but other parts of the state. This is something that the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation has kind of taken the lead on. They've purchased the tool for counties to initiate broadband speed testing. So there's many counties out there that are using this interface and promoting it. But even one thing to keep in mind is even the counties that aren't promoting it are eligible to do speed testing. For example, if you go to the county website, which we're going to check out later, and you live in Adams County, you could take the test on the Wood County site, and all the data feeds into one database that we'll have access to at some point. Now, you might ask why we're doing speed testing. It's not just because we're nosy here. We really want to get an idea of where the broadband need is in the county. And we also want to have a justification for future grant applications. But some of the caveats about the testing, I mentioned earlier, some providers sell tiered service. They maybe have different options as far as broadband, and some of the lower cost plans may limit speed. So they may test at a low speed, but that's maybe what they purchased and what they're satisfied with. And another thing to keep in mind too, there's a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are people in the county that may not have access to broadband because they can't afford it or don't want to have access. So, really having that information is not the silver bullet, but it's going to be one of the contributing factors or one thing referenced when we apply for future grants and determine how we're going to meet broadband needs in the county here. Next slide. Okay, and this is kind of where we'll wrap this portion up here. And I'm going to turn it over to Marianne. Are you ready? Do you want to do a speed test?
Yes, I can be. I will need to start sharing my screen. Thank you, Jason. Okay. Thank you so much. The speed testing, as Jason mentioned, is really, really important to give us data for future grant applications. Traditionally, the Public Service Commission maps are not very accurate. They're based on census blocks, and the speed testing application goes down to the individual address. So it gives much, much better data. Okay, I am going to share my screen. I have tons of screens here, so I better find the right one. Here we go. Okay, how do I? Okay, well, first of all, let me flip to the Wisconsin broadband map real quick, the current provider map, just for fun. Here is Wood County. And in general, first of all, can everyone see this map of Wood County? Okay. In general, the areas in Southwest Wood County are considered unserved. That's because they do not have any service meeting the current definition of 25-2. The dark blue areas are the ones that have appropriate service. Okay, the dark blue areas, whether it's through fiber in the ground or other modalities, have really good service. And then you've got the big, vast area in the middle that doesn't have adequate speeds. So that's kind of the lay of the land here for Wood County. Let me stop that sharing and then get to the live page I pulled up with the speed testing. Okay, I think I have to go to share all windows. No, I need to go to Google. Okay, if I go to, nope, yes, no. Okay, first what I'm going to do, because of where I'm at, I'm going to show you the speed test map, because that's the easiest thing for me to do right now. And then I'll take you through the actual speed test. Okay, here is this coming up? Are you folks able to see the state of Wisconsin with a whole bunch of dots? Wonderful, wonderful. This is the, ooh, let's get rid of that, Marianne. Okay. I'm trying to get rid of the aggregate data and get to the point of just showing the, okay, I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to come back to this. I want to show you Wood County and the results we have so far. Of course, these things never work exactly when
With zooming in good, if you keep going in, I think you can get Wood County.
yeah, I think you're right. What I'd really like to do is show the map for just Wood County, and I'm not able to do well. Here we go. There we go. So far, Wood County, we have a goal of about 3,000 speed tests. So far, we are in the range of 300. You will see we've had great participation from the greater Wisconsin Rapids area. And also, we have a bunch of green dots from the Marshfield area. The red dots are the areas that are not adequate. They are not meeting the federal standard of 25.3. And yeah, we need to have more people take the speed test so we can populate this map with a lot of dots. And so that's where we're hoping we can get some of your help in terms of sharing information about the speed testing. I'm going to go back and take you through that speed test. I think this is, here we go. Nope. Technology and having too many screens open. That is the problem. Where is, okay, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to, give me a minute. Nope. Okay, let me do something else. PSC broadband map. Here we go. North Central. Okay. Let me see. Am I sharing now?
No.
No? Okay. Can you see a blue web page that says North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. North Central Regional Planning Commission is managing the speed test function for their geography, and that's who Wood County is with. If you go to our main web page, which is ncwrpc.com, we'll have Angel send the link out afterwards, and go to take the broadband speed test, do this puppy live, and you'll see what kind of speeds there are in rural Vesper. It appears the speed is such that, okay, now we're coming up. By the way, this is the area where I can get the best speeds. If I was at my home, which is north of Pittsville, my speeds are like 0.3 download, 0.3 upload. But let's do it here at property in Vesper. Okay, you have three choices: entering my exact address, entering a partial address if you're concerned about privacy, or enter an address with no available service. And I'll talk, I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, we'll talk later. I'm going to enter my exact address. And it is, okay, 683 Oak Road, Vesper. We pay, this is actually not required, but we pay $65 a month for service from Country Wireless. Take me to the speed test page. Are you seeing a purple page now?
Yes.
Okay. I agree to the data policy and I'll click begin. And so there's the test going on, download right now. Doing pretty good this morning. This is so much faster than what I have at home. Okay, today's test, you'll see on the right-hand side, download speed this morning was 18. My upload speed was 1.24. And then it gives the latency, which I'm not even going to try to find that because I'm not an expert. These results will then be plotted on that map that we saw previously. And I'm going to have a yellow dot for that map. So
one thing I'll mention is, Marianne, the dots that are placed on the map for the test aren't directly placed on the residents, and that's by design for privacy. So if you take a test and you don't see resulting dot directly on your property, don't be surprised. There's a lot of confidentiality issues with the data here that we're required to comply with, and so that resulting dot won't land directly on the home, but a lot of times it may land in the general area.
It'll land, yeah, it'll land pretty much in the general. So that's how the speed testing goes. And as I indicated, we really are looking for assistance in getting the word out about speed testing. You know, we've shared on some social media. I do believe the best way to get the word out is probably social media, because people don't read newspapers used to. And we do have some sample Facebook posts and Instagram posts that can be customized for your area. So say, for example, I live in the Pittsville area. You know, I took what said, Haywood County, is your speed fast enough? I changed it to, hey, Pittsville area residents, is your speed fast enough? You know, just to really target it. I would be happy to send those sample posts to Angel and then encourage folks to get it out. We've also worked with the school districts. This is a busy time of year, but many of them are still doing communication and to the home. And so all of the school districts have sent things out also. But we really need a more robust response in order to have valid data.
And one thing too I want to mention, it's really important to get information on people that feel they don't have broadband access. And the ones that don't have broadband access can't really take the test from the residents. But what we're encouraging them to do is to log on to the website, enter their property information of where they're not able to get broadband access, or they're welcome to call my office and share their address, and we'll enter that information in for them. And they'll be mapped as not having broadband access, and those results we'll use those results in the future for other grant applications.
Yeah. Now, I know also one of the suggestions is that people can go to the library. I see we have Andy from Macmillan Library on this morning. We also have some flyers and things like that can be distributed places. So if you would like some of that, be happy to share that via Angel.
One thing I wanted to
go ahead, Jason.
Okay. Yeah, Marianne mentioned that the speeds out there of broadband. I think right now what's acceptable is 25 download and 3 upload, 2 or 3 upload. And I think what we're going to see, what we're hearing is that the federal government's going to establish a different standard at some point that might be 100 up and 100 down. So a lot of the areas that are labeled as served in the county may change, may revert to underserved category at some point if those standards change. So just something to keep in mind, because I guess one thing we're starting to find out that 25.3 is probably not outstanding service that everybody really, that fits families' needs. Marianne, you froze. Are you okay out there? Not sure if we have Marianne here yet. Are there any questions out there?
Yeah, at this time, feel free if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and then go ahead and ask the question, or if you just want to drop it in the chat, that's fine as well. I see Andy mentioned about posting on their social media. Thank you so much. Again, as a follow-up, all the material they reference, I will send that out to the group with our upcoming coffee with the chamber. Thank you, Angel.
I do have a question. My name's Chris Went. I actually work at US Cellular. So I'd like to connect with you after this actually, but I noticed just when I think Marianne shared a map, it looks like just north of Wisconsin Rapids, there's a pocket of area that has a very low service level, and I was just curious if you knew like what that was and why that was there.
Are you referring to like the Rudolph area?
That it looked like it was kind of in that area, yeah.
Okay, and I'm not real. I can't speak directly to that right now. I guess the way I'd approach that though is I'd probably bring up our county map here and see what's out there as far as homes and things like that. My guess is maybe it's a low populated area that maybe wasn't suitable to serve in the past or economically viable as far as serving in the past. Or a lot of times topography plays a role too, or types of, if there's bedrock and things like that, not a real easy area to serve as far as fiber or things like that.
Sure. One of the things that we're doing as an organization is trying to work with county specifically. We actually just did a thing with Fond du Lac County, and we're able to secure a pretty significant amount of grants in that area to kind of help boost things. So I'm hopeful we can work something out and help Wood County out as well as some of the surrounding areas. We do offer like an unlimited service for customers that live in that in the more rural areas. We've actually recently expanded it so that everybody has access to that unlimited. But again, now we're going to be subject to coverage in some of those areas. So which is where we obviously need to do a little bit more sourcing for funding and things like that.
That sounds good. One thing I want to mention too, we're probably going to do another request for information process in the county here to touch base with providers and see if there's a way we can partner with them. And again, right now we're looking to partner with pretty much any provider out there if it's a good match for the county. I know some of the providers have certain requirements of match that we may or may not be able to meet, but we would like to make a connection with the providers out there and talk about the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions out there? Marianne's back. Hey, Marianne.
She quick emailed me and said the power went off in Vesper. So
any more questions out there?
Okay, can you folks hear me?
Yeah, now we can, Marianne.
Okay, the power went off in rural Vesper, and since our router, of course, is hooked into the power source, I lost everything. I'm on my phone now. Welcome to rural Wisconsin.
All All right, well, if we do not have any more questions for our speaker today, I want to thank Jason and Mary Ann for talking about broadband and for everyone's questions. Again, Coffee with the Chamber is hosted monthly, and it's usually the last Wednesday of the month. I will be sure to follow up with all the material mentioned in today's presentation, along with the link for our next presentation. We'll be talking about childcare. So stay tuned, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Have a great day, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Okay. Jason and